All right, everybody. We are here with the Omnibus for King of the Hill, Season 4. And for me, and Circus and Mooney and Sylph, we are here to open the psychedelic laundromat for the next 2 hours and have everybody come in and enjoy all this stuff. What is it with the Piplup meme? Why is that such a thing? I don't get that. Sorry, I'm just looking at our Discord for all of you listening right now. Meanwhile, for the people that are watching the video portion, or just watching the video, some people might just have this in the background, just, listening to this. But we got some Mario Party 2 going on. We're going to be in Spaceland this time. And we got 2 hours worth of Mario Party 2 footage to look at while we talk about some Season 4 King of the Hill, which has one of my favorite two-parters. That's
Before
going
we
on.
start, Joe, I need to tell you, keep those damn toes out of the fucking dryers. They've been spinning for hours and they won't leave because they think it's fun.
What are you talking about?
They're fucking putting the toes side. They're gonna go for a ride in the fucking dryers to make themselves throw up for fun. Keep them out.
You spin me right round, baby, right round.
I'm tired of cleaning up their puke.
Well, then maybe stop inviting them all. Maybe we should do that. Stop inviting them all the time.
I didn't invite them this time. Someone else did.
This time? What about all the
I
other
didn't
times?
Hell, they brought the boobs. What can I say?
This is supposed to be like one of those deals. Like if someone gets drunk, we take their keys away so they don't drive.
Well, here's the thing. They never left, Joey. They never left.
Just like the Chippendales haven't left your house. They're still there after your birthday.
Oh, yeah. I've been treating them like good little boys.
Yeah, you've been treating them like Bill Dauterive going to his mansion over in New Orleans.
Oh, yes.
Which we'll talk about in one of these episodes. But we have a King of the Hill episode to start with first. So this season takes place right after Peggy fell off of a plane because she was supposed to be skydiving, but her parachute wouldn't work. So also
Her
Good Hank was
parachute
born.
failed, her backup failed,
And then Good Hank was born.
Too bad she didn't die.
Well, then there wouldn't be a show.
Dude, I don't like Peggy. What can I say?
The whole point of King of the Hill is supposed to make fun of people from Texas or conservatives in Texas, and she is the quintessential conservative woman.
Yeah, but
I thought part of the idea for the storyline was that gradually they were supposed to, challenge their worldviews, and Hank understanding Bobby more was also supposed to be symbolic of him not being as much of a tight ass about things.
Well, I mean, that's how it originally started. That's how it originally started, but sometimes they just go right back to the status quo for some of these episodes. So then those are not really the good ones. I mean, the show ended that way, thankfully, because it's like, well, we're going to end the show. We might as well go back to our roots. But I mean, it's a satire. I mean, they're going to make fun of certain elements of life back then in the 90s, especially with people of that, people who identified as conservatives. It's like a lot of times it was making fun of that. And also at the same time making fun of some of the liberal stuff that was going on back then, which if you take a look at it now, it's like, didn't really age very well in a lot of people's eyes. But then again, Mike Judge has always been classified as like a libertarian, as the closest thing you can say. If anyone knows that, that's a whole different conversation in of itself. It was funny. Mike Judge recently went on Howie Mandel's podcast and was talking about the origin of how King of the Hill started. So one day, Mike's trying to build a fence, and these 4 random guys are just drinking beer in an alley, and they're taking a look at his work, and he's like, well, that's not how you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to put this fence in like this. And then the guy and his 3 friends just decided to do Mike's fence for him. And later, Mike was trying to do something else with it, and then the guy came over again. He's like, well, you're not supposed to do it like that. Here's how you do it. And then he just started doing the work himself. So it was just a bunch of people that just did construction on their off time. And then Howie Mandel made the joke, like, this guy would go to your house if you were having sex with your wife, and he would just be like, well, you're not actually fucking her the right way. But it was like,
adding
that's
on
it.
to that, Boomhauer's voice came from a really weird voicemail that he got from a guy who thought Beavis and Butthead was really called Porky's Butthole.
Yes. Yeah, because at the time, like, they were making fun of conservatives a lot on that show. And that was also one of the things, like, complaining about the show also.
Oh, too bad Beavis and Butthead didn't show up in Ireland.
No, they never, I mean, the guy, I mean, what was it? When they redid Beavis and Butthead back, like, 10 years ago, they brought in a character that looked very similar to Hank that was, like, their next-door neighbor, and they had Hank's voice. But he was called something different.
Mr.
Actually, he was there from the get-go. That guy was like, yeah, Mr. Anderson was there from the get-go. Before King of the Hill.
Yeah, because
So
I remember...
basically, I think Hank was based off of Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, so you could say that Mr. Anderson had his own show. They just called him a different name, if you really think about it. All right,
Exactly.
getting into the episode itself to start off with. So this episode involves Peggy going through her rehabilitation. So this is called Cotton's Plot.
Oh gosh.
By the way, the episode, the title of it has a lot of slavery attached to that name, like Cotton's Plot. I mean, it doesn't really do well. Anyway, so Peggy is finally removed from her full body cast after 6 weeks of recovery. However, her muscles have atrophied and she could barely move, requiring physical therapy. When the conventional therapy moves too slowly for Peggy's liking, Cotton takes over physical therapy in exchange for help getting a burial plot in the Veterans Administration Cemetery. Cotton's method of getting Peggy to regain the use of her limbs involves him refusing to treat her like an invalid and forces Peggy to push her limits, trying to do all the things she could do before, just like he did when he lost his shins, through a combination of insults and encouragement. This is
All right, so, I'm sorry, I gotta jump in. That phrasing that you use, he refused to treat her like she was weak because of her injury.
Mm-hmm.
This is how they used to talk in the CrossFit community too, which also has a lot of connotations like what Cotton has. Anyway. So their therapy soon shows rapid progress, and Peggy is able to do more than what her doctor told her she could in the same amount of time. However, while writing the notes to help Cotton get his grave, Hank hears Peggy repeat what Cotton told her about being stationed in both Japan and Germany, and tells her that his father was only ever in Japan. An angry Peggy refuses to help Cotton anymore, until Hank, in a rare moment of standing up for his father, reminds her that a doctor once told him that he never walk again after his shins were blown off, but he persevered, I should say. Peggy then goes to the veterans community and helps Cotton get his grave. The episode ends with the family visiting the plot, and Cotton encourages Peggy to climb the hill to see it, offering her the chance to dance on his grave if she makes it. Peggy pushes herself and does it, then manages to stand up for the first time before Cotton, and she starts dancing, and they start dancing together on the plot.
If I had a chance, I would do the same.
Dance on Cotton's grave?
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
I would have gone a step further. I was like, well, if you could dance on my grave, you can also piss on it, too.
I don't have that option. You know that. I can't whip it out like you can.
I mean, you could always, hey, wearing a skirt's an option.
Part of the physical therapy thing that Cotton put Peggy through involved raising a flag, right?
Yes.
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, a very lot of a lot of hardcore methods. Let's just say, well, very military-esque style training. It's kind of like what the New England Patriots go through in American football.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why they've won 6 Super Bowls, according to some people. Some people say it's Tom Brady, the asshole. But
I just say it was already paid for.
So anyway, as for Peggy's body cast, it's appropriated by Bill in probably his creepiest display of affection for Peggy. He props up a photo of her on it and plays one-handed boggle with it.
Oh.
Dale then takes it and props it up in the passenger seat so he can use the carpool lane, which, by the way, in Florida, they do a lot. I remember there was one person that used to bring in an Elvis doll, and he would put it on his front seat just so that he can use the carpool lane on the highway. One day, I'm just walking through the parking lot, and I see this thing, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? Is that a person? Is that like an Elvis impersonator? And like, no, it was an actual mannequin. And then one day that same person brought the mannequin in to the office. And so I'm just walking down the office, and this was like before a show was about to happen. It was like a half hour before the show. And I'm just walking down the hallway trying to get some paperwork. And I just turn the corner and I see this mannequin, this Elvis mannequin, just staring right at me.
Thank you very much, Joe.
It was like in the corner, and I'm like, who the fuck are you? And I thought it was a real person, but no. It was that guy that brought his mannequin in. And by the way, this was during a weekend. You didn't need the mannequin at that point. But this guy was like, no, I bring it in because, you know, I want people to think that I have somebody in there. And it's not like it even matters here in Florida. Anyway, Boomhauer shames him out of it. Then uses the cast himself to play naughty nurse sex games with his latest girlfriend. So Bill did incel things with
romantic. it. Someone's used body cast, which probably has sweat in it.
Ew. Any other shit?
So Bill basically used it for incel purposes. Dale just used it so he could just skip traffic, and then Boomhauer was just like, "Yeah, I'll just pretend to be an injured patient so that my girlfriend can dress up like a nurse before we have sex." This is role playing, essentially, because foreplay is not enough apparently for Boomhauer.
He was I can't do the voice.
Well, I don't think
Yeah.
Okay, so this next episode, this has a little Shop of Horrors reference in the title, but it's called Little Horrors of Shop.
Oh God.
So Buck Strickland forces Hank to take 2 weeks off from work because Hank's the type of guy that does not like to take vacations. That's like, no, take a vacation. You need it. And it's like, no, but the reason he gives, it's like, well, they're gonna take away my money away. So that it's the same thing that Mr. Krabs told SpongeBob, except with SpongeBob, it was just a dime or something, like a coin that he had to pay. And Mr. Krabs is so cheap. But anyway.
I like money.
Hank, during his time off, has trouble staying busy. So visiting the school, Hank learns the school's shop class has been suspended due to the existing shop teacher taking a vacation. How ironic. Hank volunteers to substitute for the class while he's off work, working for free. Peggy offers Hank advice for teaching, but soon finds Peggy's advice useless. So he uses his own instincts to teach the class, and soon his class ends up becoming the talk of the school. This is kind of like very reminiscent of Dead Poet Society, if anybody's ever watched that movie with Robin Williams and the poetry class that he was in. Or I think it was English. Peggy, meanwhile, is still recovering from her fall from the airplane and is forced to teach classes she's not accustomed to. The substitute teacher of the year vote is coming up, and Peggy fears she's going to lose it to Hank. So before the vote, Hank gets suspended from teaching when he allows his students to walk around the school with tools. So Peggy is left running alone for the award and wins it. During her speech, Hank walks out on the stage and receives a standing ovation from the students. Peggy, in all of her naivete, believes the students are cheering her on and proclaims, "I accept this award for all those who have fallen out of a plane and lived to win their third straight Substitute Teacher of the Year award."
Peggy.
Which, by the way, has never happened to any other
So like
person.
that scene from SpongeBob where the talent show.
Yeah.
Yep.
Where they're cheering for SpongeBob and boo Squidward.
Yes.
I swear there was a scene in this episode where after Hank is suspended, like the kids go to his garage to learn more shop stuff.
They do.
But why is it not written on here in the wiki?
I have no idea. However, after Hank leaves the stage, the auditorium falls into awkward silence just before Peggy exclaims, "I'm king of the school!"
Oh, Lord.
Lord.
And Jack, you are not.
Screw you, Jack. Go die. Oh, wait, you're dead.
I mean, there was plenty of room on the boat, let's be clear.
Yeah. She's just a selfish
wait,
woman.
wait.
Door.
You just like threw shade at like Leonardo DiCaprio though.
Well, sue me. That movie's over like 30 years old at this point. Give me a break.
I mean, he does dump his partners before they turn 25.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous. Like, why is even... people... there's some people on the progressive side. It's like, oh, it doesn't matter how old the girls are. Just let them enjoy their relationships. I'm like, no, that's creepy as fuck. He's in his 40s for crying out loud. They're old enough to be his dad.
It kind of reminds me of that saying from, like, Dazed and Confused. The older I get, they stay the same age.
Yes.
Bullshit.
It's like, Jesus Christ. Like, there are some, and by the way, I was talking to this. It's like, well, if you had a chance to date a 40-year-old rich man, wouldn't you take it? I'm like, no, I wouldn't. And they said to me, it's like, well, you're not a woman. And the reason why we would do it, Joey, and not you, is because we don't have the opportunities to make as much money as you do. I'm like, I don't make Leonardo DiCaprio's money. I mean, but even if there was like a thing where if DiCaprio was gay and I was gay, I would not put myself in that situation either. Like, regardless.
Rather do porn.
Because then I know he's gonna dump me after I turn 25. I mean, like okay, you had your fun. Now what are you gonna do? What if somebody actually fell in love with him?
Mm-hmm.
And then they're gonna say, well, it was foolish to fall in love with him. You knew he was gonna dump you. I'm like, well, things happen. I mean, everybody thought that him and Kate Winslet would have been a couple because, like, God, they were in like 2 movies together, but when they see each other in public, like, they're always like flirtatious with each other. Kate Winslet can't get over how handsome he is all the time. I'm like, why not? Sure, it would have probably ended in a divorce because all marriages in Hollywood seem to do that.
True.
Unless you're Will Smith and Jane Plinkett, which are like off and on. Sorry, go ahead,
Has
Soph.
there ever been a Hollywood like marriage that actually lasted?
I
At least
can't.
until, the whole death thing.
I have no clue. Maybe Angela Lansbury? I'm not totally sure, but I don't think she had a famous husband.
I know Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell still together, but they weren't married.
Like, I'm trying to think. Like, has there been any Hollywood couples that have been, like, married and stayed married until the day they died?
Google it.
Well, I'll have to Google this later, or maybe somebody could do it while I read the next episode. Okay, so this next one is called Bills Are Made to Be Broken. This is a football episode, so if there's anybody that's confused on some football terminology, I can help you with that. So the episode begins with Hank, Dale, Bill, and Boomhauer drinking in the alley while listening to the Sports Jock and Chad show on the radio. Arlen is buzzing about Ricky Suggs, who is threatening Arlen High's career touchdown record. The trivia question is who currently holds the record. Hank, Dale, and Bill scramble back to their houses to call in, while Boomhauer pulls out a cell phone and correctly answers that it was Bill. As Ricky gets closer and eventually ties the record, people begin paying attention to Bill. He even earns an interview with the sports jock and Chad. Hank is understandably worried about Bill's mental state as one of the greatest accomplishments in his life comes under threat. However, Bill seems fine and even supportive of Ricky. In the next game, Ricky gets the ball with a chance to break the record, but takes a vicious hit and has to leave. Everybody claps, Dale misinterpreting this as meaning they share his happiness at the injury. Which, by the way, there are football fans that will cheer when an opposing team member gets hurt. In the next game after that, Arlen gets the ball near the goal line. They bring in Ricky. The defense opens up for him, and he limps in, even at one point dropping the ball and have an opponent pick it up for him. The crowd cheers, only Hank, Boomhauer, and Dale seemingly realizing the depravity of what they just witnessed. Hank attempts to go to the school board, led by Eustace, to right the wrong, but they, like the rest of the town, seem to find nothing wrong with it. By the way, this is a commentary about people in like communities obsessed with high school football. Like people like are so obsessed with high school football, and you know, like an up and comer, like their hometown player that will one day make it to the pro leagues. Like it's ridiculous. So they're making fun of this, really. Bill is a good sport at first, but this can only stretch so far, and he finally admits his true feelings as he and Hank sit on the football field at night reliving their glory days. As they talk, Hank remembers that Bill shipped out before the end of their last season and didn't graduate, meaning he still has redshirt eligibility. Hank talks the coach into putting Bill on the team despite a flurry of anger from the community. The coach puts Bill in and he plays like the Billdozer, because that was his name back in the, that was his nickname back in the thing. And they actually played Iron Man by Black Sabbath during that. And like that was like the song they would play whenever he was about to go in for a touchdown.
I am Iron Man.
Like dragging defenders into the end zone with them to score and tie the record. However, the effort leaves him unable to move. The episode ends with Bill working out as he listens to the sports jock and Chad compliment his performance. Like this episode is just like I was saying before, the whole idea of like people obsessing over high school sports.
Oh, hi, Alex.
Oh shit.
Hey, Alex.
One of the things I remember about high school football is my high school team actually went to the state finals in high school, and this was I think this was in my senior year, senior year, and there was a coach on the football team that said, Joey, I want you to ride with me in the car up to Orlando so that we can watch the game. And I'm like, what? I was creeped out by that because it was just like
my God.
It was like it was. By the way, this guy was also the wrestling coach. I vehemently said no. I'm not going to the game. Fuck that. But I was like, I could have got. It was like, you know, I could just take the bus, and they're like, no, you don't want to take the bus. The bus is not as fun. I'm like, no, the bus has more people on it. I'm gonna be in a car with a random like coach in this car. I am not going with you. I was smart enough back then not to accept rides from strangers. Back then.
I hear bad touch, bad touch.
Yeah, that's what
Stranger danger.
That's exactly what it was. That's exactly what it was. So one of the things I did was I stayed home during the game and I just like played Street Fighter 3 with one of my friends. And then we just watched and then we just caught the game on TV very quickly and like, oh, they won, cool. That football
Yeah.
player,
It's
the
like,
football
okay, cool, all right. Or you're like, okay, they won. That's cool. Now let's get back to our game.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it was. We talked to the football players the next Monday. The next Monday, they come back and the football players are like, "Oh, hey, how was it?" And they said, "God, it was so boring." But I'm like, "Oh, you guys looked happy in the newspaper holding up the championship." And I was like, "Yeah, we only got to hold that championship for 5 seconds.
Damn.
Like the coaches got all the glory." Which, by the way,
That's how
Don't
it
they
happens.
usually?
oh, well, in high school football, yes. Coaches seem to get a lot more popularity than the players do. Unless, of course, it's a future NFL prospect. Which, by the way, this is also a King of the Hill episode that goes into more detail about this, and they make fun of that just as much as what I'm describing. But yeah, coaches in college and football, like in high school and football, sorry, the coaches get a lot more recognition. And it's like, well, it's really the coaches that really did all the hard work here. It's like, no, the people that are on the field are actually the ones producing, and they're ones that putting the points up. And they should really be the ones getting paid for this. The coaches get millions of dollars, and the players, before this season, the players didn't make a dime. And they were getting featured on national television every Saturday. And they weren't getting paid anything. Now they're getting paid, and is that the greatest system in the world? No, but it's an improvement over what was years and years of coaches making millions and the others were not getting paid. High school, it's different because they're minors, so they have to. It's kind of
In other
hard to
words,
work
it's
around that.
Like a step up from considering back then being considered free labor from in terms of sports.
Yeah, and a lot of ways, there are plenty of people that still want to go back to that era because they don't like the fact that players in college are now getting paid, and they're now going through what are called transfer portals. And so once a player gets into a portal, they could say, yeah, I'll transfer to this school to play football. But back then, like, it was very tough for a player to go from one college to another if they hated their college program and they wanted to go play somewhere else. If you made a commitment, you were stuck there, unless, of course, the school decided to kick you out. So this transfer portal makes it a lot easier for players to get to go through places. But everybody, like nowadays, there are some people that are huge fans of college football, and they're just like, no, now you're taking away our star players. They're going over somewhere else, and we're like, and the rest of us are like, tough shit. We don't give a fuck what you think. These players actually deserve a lot more than the coaches do. A lot of these coaches end up becoming priests and pastors. And they end up becoming like those evangelical pastors. Sorry, I'm going on a rant here, but this is what happens when there's like a football conversation and King of the Hill makes fun of it. I'm glad that they made episodes making fun of like communities and like high school football. It's ridiculous. Anyway, moving on. Oh, Aisle 8A is the next episode. If anybody know what that's a reference to. So the episode starts with the guys in the alley, and Dale bragging about his new supposedly indestructible trash can. Khan then joins the guys in the alley and starts talking about his big, albeit 5-minute speech at his upcoming week-long business trip, which is really a vacation to Hawaii with his wife, Ming. Ming is shown on the phone being informed that Connie's babysitter violated parole and is unable to watch their daughter Connie. I was like, holy shit. If you knew that your babysitter has parole, why are you hiring that person? There's always the risk that they violate their parole.
I remember this one now. Okay.
Ming reluctantly suggests having one of the neighbors babysit Connie. It's like, ooh, their hillbilliness. When they're trying to decide which neighbor to ask, Min states, but which evil is lesser? Which is the lesser evil here? Out of the 4, who's the most evil, I want to know.
Bill.
Bill, yes. It's always... every answer is
Maybe.
Bill. Every answer is Bill.
Bill is a fucking simp.
Oh, wait till we get to the New Orleans episode.
Oh, I know about the New Orleans episode.
Well, wait till we get there. We can talk all about that when we get there. They eventually decide on having Hank and Peggy watch her. Bobby is nervous but excited about his partner staying the week at his house, even asking Boomhauer on advice on what to wear. Bobby is seen having trouble looking for age-appropriate pajamas, so he wears Ninja Turtles pajamas. So after Con and mingling for Hawaii, everything is fine, and with Connie being seemingly like the perfect guest. Connie is seen telling funny stories at the dinner table that even entertain Hank and clearing the table for Peggy. The next day at the dinner, Connie is shown to be upset and angry about something, and she randomly states at the table, "How many cows do you people eat in a year?" Before asking to be excused from the table. Before she and Bobby go to sleep, he brings her a slice of cake, and she gets extremely irritated with him and angrily scolds at him because she has already brushed her teeth and would have to brush them again. The next morning at breakfast, Connie continues to snap at Bobby and goes to the bathroom and stays in there for a while. Peggy not wanting to be late to school because there are no substitute teachers for substitute teachers that are late. Then leaves and tells Hank to take Connie to school late. Connie emerges from the bathroom and asks for Peggy. When he tells Connie she's already left, she stutters while trying to tell him something and then hands him a notepad. Hank is stunned after Connie gives him a note that says,
remember that.
"Mr. Hill, I just got my first period." Da-ha!
The blood demon is here.
Hank panics and refers to the notes that Con left about Connie, but of course they're not going to have anything about period stuff in there. And Connie begins to cry. Hank is unable to get in touch with Connie's parents or Peggy, but does contact his mother, but hangs up the phone when he hears her voice. Like, he's even embarrassed to talk about periods with his own mom. Hank ends up taking Connie with a blanket draped over her to the hospital, where they have taken care of Connie for the... Yeah, she's like, well, this is a medical emergency. So he takes her to the ER, where they taken care of Connie for the meantime and simply tell him he just needs to get the proper products from any pharmacy. Hank had hoped,
That kind of stuff has happened before.
Yeah, because people do...
like calling 911 or like...
Yeah,
like
because...
bringing a kid to the hospital for that.
It's
Yeah,
really, it's like, dumbass. This is just a normal thing for a woman to do.
Yeah,
See-
but Hank Hill's like fuck
Well,
so
sometimes-
conservative he can talk.
This is why you need to teach sex education.
Mm-hmm.
Hank never got taught that, so he didn't know what to do.
I find it funny, a few episodes back, she's like, I'm a man, now she's a woman.
Hank and Connie go to the Megalomart, and he sends her to the feminine products aisle, but she's overwhelmed with the situation and begins to cry. They go back to the house, and Connie and Hank are calm before Connie asks, "Now, how do I change one of these things?" Hank looks up in horror, and then Peggy is then shown being escorted by police off of school grounds after Hank calls 911, presumably, and she races home, almost destroying Dale's new trash can in the process. Peggy gets in touch...
He's not invincible as he claims.
It's like that one James Bond character that thought he was invincible before dying of dry ice all over the place. I think it was dry ice. Anyway, Peggy gets in touch with Min, who then informs Khan of the situation during his speech, and he screams and runs off the stage out of the convention center with Ming running right behind him. Peggy takes Bobby out to eat at the local Whataburger and attempts to explain Connie's situation to him, which afterwards he still doesn't completely understand. After Connie doesn't talk much with Bobby and refuses to do any activities with him, he gets angry and storms off. After Con and Ming come home, Connie runs into her mother's arms. In the alley, Dale eagerly awaits the first trash pickup of his new trash can, but the mechanism on the trash truck accidentally takes the trash can too and takes off, with Boomhauer chasing it and trying to get it to stop unsuccessfully. At Connie's house, they're watching sad dolphin stories on TV, crying. Ming explains how the effects of PMS and how she must now begin to act like an adult because she's becoming a woman. Bobby is worried that Connie is going to break up with him and asks Hank for advice, who explains to him about how her actions are normal. Hank goes to see Connie to return some items of hers that she left at his house, including the notes on Connie, with newly added information about aisle 8A that Hank wrote for him. Connie apologizes to Bobby and they make up. They agree to continue their relationship provided Connie is allowed to avoid interacting with Bobby during her periods. And she's like, "Yeah, we can still date, but when I'm on my period, I don't want to ever see your face in my presence."
I'm gonna punch it.
Oof.
We'll just show this little pygmy's ass and pull out his heart. His ass heart.
Damn, Mooney.
I'm quoting Big Mouth.
Jesus Christ.
Because I've seen how Connie was so pissed. Hey, and funny thing, when I was quoting that, that's the name of the hormone monstress. Is also named Connie. What do you think, Joe?
No, I mean that they probably got influence from this episode.
Yeah. So, like, is Connie from King of the Hill got her own hormone monstress? Did it be Connie from Big Mouth?
It's like, "Hello, Connie." I was like, "Whoa, who are you?" All right. So this
basically her hormone monster would sound like a drag queen.
I mean, hey, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
No, we could definitely. I mean, yeah, that would definitely be awesome. Especially if the drag queen was reading some bedtime stories to her.
There once was a man named Nantucket.
I was gonna say, but what if it was Lady Gaga? Like, what if somebody's hormone monster just came out as Lady Gaga?
Then that'd be a big ass musical right there.
I mean, hey, I mean, she is gonna be Harley Quinn, so maybe one day we will have like a something like Hair, but not really Hair, as a Broadway musical.
I would love to have Lady Gaga as my PMS hormone monster.
Especially if she dressed up like Harley Quinn. You would probably like, yes.
That'd be even better. I mean, come on, I like Harley Quinn. Give me a break.
I mean, she already wants
She
to...
is like...
I mean, she already wants to... I mean, what was it at the Oscars this year? Like, she wanted to order Caitlyn Jenner when they were, like, in vicinity of each other. Like, she had full on, like, JoJo, like, I'm about to, like, get star platinum on you.
Down with the bitch.
Bless you. Next, okay, so the next one.
That was the thing.
Hi, Mr. L. All right, next episode. A beer can named Desire. Okay, this is the episode that we'll talk about Bill in this instance.
Oh, Bill, what were we gonna do with you?
What was I gonna do with you?
So the episode begins in the alley with Hank, Dale, Bill, and Boomhauer having gone through several beers. Alamo Beer has announced the chance to compete in a contest where one can throw a football through a hole and a giant novelty Alamo beer can at halftime in the upcoming New Orleans-Dallas Cowboys game. Finally, Hank goes in, putting away his last beer in the fridge. Luann drinks it later on and discovers that it's the winning can. She claims it's her beer until Hank points out that she's underage and that if it's her beer, she gets arrested rather than going to New Orleans as she would if it were his beer.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, why is she drinking beer if she's underage?
Why is she drinking his his beer?
Yeah, what makes her randomly think it's okay to just drink a beer when you're underage and a beer can't already opened?
Yeah, Luann, this ain't the
That
UK.
someone already
You can't
drank
drink
out
it.
of.
I guess she got too
You
much
can't drink.
influence. I think she was just
Or
too much
anywhere in
influence.
Europe, really.
But then again, both of her parents are drunks, so she probably got some bad habits from them. So Hank can either take the throw himself for a chance at $1 million or have former Cowboys quarterback Don Meredith take it for a chance at $100,000. This proves to be a tough choice for Hank. Many people advise him to take the sure thing, but Hank builds a replica metal beer can and starts to practice. By the time of the contest, he's become pretty good. So on their way to New Orleans, they stop at a local bait store where Bill surprises Hank and Peggy by asking for directions to the Dautrive residence in fluent Cajun French. Arriving at Chateau Dautrive, Bill meets 3 attractive young women, Lily, Rose, and Violetta, as well as his cousin Gilbert. The 3 women are lonely widows. One is Bill's cousin, the other 2 were married to his cousins. Bill chooses to remain behind with...
Wouldn't that technically make him his...
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta remember, this is the South.
Cousin-in-laws?
You gotta remember, this is the South. Then they still believe in marrying their cousins.
Sweet home Alabama.
Yeah, because this is because they still think like, well, we're not technically blood, so we can get away with it. That's like people saying like, well, that's like people saying in porn like, well, you're not really my mom, you're just my stepmom. We're not really blood. That's always the logic behind it. It's like, we're not really blood. I was like, no, it matters, you fuckers.
Everything matters in this situation.
God, that's why Shelbyville and Springfield on The Simpsons were formed. Because Jebediah Springfield was like, no, we're not going to have a place where we can marry our cousins. And Shelby was like, well, I'm not going to live in a place that does not give us the right to marry our cousins. Well, then we'll form our own village. And the landmark of Shelbyville is Shelbyville with his 2 drunken cousins. Anyway. All 3 make advances on Bill. Who becomes confused and struggles to figure out which one is his biological cousin. Late at night, the women come upon Bill in his bed and begin a violent fight over him.
Oh, you're...
You sicko!
What?
Don't try to sleep with your family.
I'm just thinking in my
What's so
head,
funny?
like...
What's your...
I just think, like, here's Bill, like, for the first time in his life, like, he's thinking, oh my god, 3 women are arguing over me. This has never happened to me in my life. Like, every incel imagines this moment right here. Like, they
Unless
wake
it
up...
was like
Alright, somebody play the world's smallest banjo, okay?
Thank you. I'll be here all night.
Yeah, somebody is just like some incel is waking up. Was like imagines themselves waking up, and there's just like 3 women there, and they're all arguing over who gets to suck his dick first. Like that's what they all think.
Oh.
This
Don't let
is-
Kevin hear that.
That's like, well, I mean, that's what basically Bill is. So Gilbert then appears and reveals which one is his cousin, the one named Violetta. In New Orleans, Hank makes the choice and hands the ball over to Don Meredith. However, despite Hank's protests, Meredith leaves his winter coat on and misses the throw. Hank, believing that Meredith leaving his coat on was an act of laziness, tackles Dawn Meredith in a fit of anger. You would have made that throw if you would have taken your coat off.
God damn it, Hank.
Later, the two meet, and Hank confronts him, claiming he could have made the throw. Angered, Meredith brings Hank to the stadium, and Hank throws the ball in the can. Hank, however, realizes it is different as there are no fans and there is no pressure. Meredith apologizes and says, "I really wanted to come through for you, Hank." He then reveals that he practiced on a replica can at home, too. He says that he had to wear his heavy coat while he practices his throws due to the chilly area where he lives, and that he didn't take his coat off because he believed it would throw him off. So it's like, well, I can understand that. And then they make peace. Meanwhile, back at the Dotrieve residence, Bill is confronted by the matriarch of the family and Aunt Esme.
Uh-oh.
Who questions whether or not Bill was there to raise a family with one of the widows or merely sleep with them. And then Hank just says, "Yeah, I just wanted to sleep with them." And
I remember that quote. Like, part of it was like, do you just want to do you want to help the garden grow, or do you just want to play in the garden, or something like that?
It was like, yeah, I just want to play in the garden. And then Aunt Esme asks that Bill leave the mansion. The group stops at Chateau Dotrieve to pick up Bill, where Bill elatingly reveals he slept with both the non-Dotrieve widows. Like, the episode just ends with him like, "I am the happiest man in the world."
Yeah, we know you didn't sleep with them. Shut up.
Oh, no, he did. It probably just wasn't enjoyable.
I think he's just gloating.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like,
here's the thing about these Kevins. They're gonna be, they're gonna be like, this is the thing about guys. They will brag about their stories to other guys, even if they make it up completely.
or just like thinking about that episode quote from Family Guy's like, so about the whole experience saying, so what was it? Like the half hour of, let's say the half hour of sex or the 2 hours of you crying.
Mm-hmm.
Half minute or
Half a minute, yeah.
minute?
Yeah, somewhere like that. I can't remember the quote.
Yeah, 30 seconds of fucking and 2 hours of crying afterwards. Because because as I was saying before, like they're
Wait,
gonna...
no, 8 seconds and then he cried for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Whichever.
There was a play that I used to read in college where, like, there was this guy, like, there was, like, a group of 6 people that just decided to, like, buy a share home together, and they all have to stay at this share home for the entire summer. So every weekend they would go and stay at the timeshare home. And one day, half of the group decides to go to a turtle museum, and the other half decides to stay home. And one of them's like this single guy that's got like 6-pack abs and always got a guitar on him, so he's like the rock star of the group. The other one's like a woman who's an artist, and the other one is like a recently divorced wife. And then they're all arguing over who gets to use the shower first. And then the guy's like, well, since we're having this argument, why don't we just all go in the shower together if we're all just like gonna argue about it? And then it just turns into a threesome. And then the women later on's like, God, he really cried for like 2 hours afterwards, didn't he? Like, yeah, he really did. It was, I don't know what was more embarrassing, the sex or the crying. And then the one that actually went to the Turtle Museum had a crush on the guy. It's like, oh, I wish I would have stayed home. I was like,
Oh.
I had such a crush on you, and then you went ahead and betrayed me by having sex with these 2 bimbos when I've been trying to get your attention for the whole summer. Meanwhile, the guy, and by the way, this woman I'm talking about, she had a pet dog, and she can't fight her dog. Turns out the guy ran over her dog.
Oh!
What the fuck?
Yeah, and then she's chasing him around with the dead dog, just like about to attack him with it. And like they're throughout the entire scene, they're just running around like her chasing him with the dead dog, and and they're like it's just like one big chase scene like in Scooby Doo. And then finally at the end of the scene, finally at the end of the scene, she's like, "Take off your fucking pants. We're having sex." And she's like, "Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am."
That would be one fucked up porno.
Like, I'm not kidding. Like, at the very end of it, she catches him on the couch. Like, he trips on the couch. She jumps on him. And she's like, "You take off your fucking pants." I'm like, okay. And then they get married afterwards.
What?
I'm not kidding. They get married afterwards.
Somebody make this a film.
It is a comedy, so...
I want to see this.
There's a lot more to the story. I mean, it's more of like a comedy drama because there is some drama in it, but that was considered like the funny part of it.
Take off your fucking pants. We're gonna fuck right now.
After you just ran over my dog and killed it.
You owe me this.
You owe me your dick after what you just did to me.
That's like some revenge. It's like, you killed my dog now, and you give me your. Oh, God damn it! No, that sounds so wrong.
Hey, you should not ran over her fucking dog.
Anyway, sorry we got off topic, but you know that's what happens. That's what happens when you talk about Bill Dauterive. All right, so this next episode is called "To Kill a Ladybird." So while taking out the trash, Bobby spots a raccoon rooting through the trash. He gives the raccoon food and dubs it Bandit. Bobby begins feeding scraps and sheltering in a screened-in hole of the house. One day, Hank enters the garage and discovers tools and paint scattered on the floor with Bandit on top of the workbench. Enraged, Hank prepares to kill Bandit, but he escapes. As Hank talks about his encounter at dinner, Bobby admits to taking care of Bandit. Hank tells Bobby to give up his pet, but Bobby berates Ladybird, calling her old and useless, much to Hank's dismay.
Oh.
You take that back.
She's a dog. That's a raccoon. Bobby feels that Bandit is more of a pet to him than Ladybird, who is elderly and will only listen to Hank. The next day, Hank talks about the incident with the guys until Dale claims he could easily get rid of Bandit. As Dale prepares to hunt down Bandit, Bobby overhears and grows concerned that Dale will kill Bandit. Bandit is tracked to the hole in the house, and as Dale enters, he tells Hank to prevent Bandit from escaping by covering up the hole with Dale inside, which is incredibly dangerous, by the way. Dale makes Hank promise that no matter how bad it gets or how much Dale begs, Hank is not to open the screen. Hank seals off the entrance, and mere seconds later, Dale is attacked and pleads Hank to let him out. Hank obliges and Bandit escapes, preparing to attack until Ladybird gets in the way and the two fight. Ladybird's collar is ripped off and she chases Bandit down the street in front of a mortified Hank. As Hank grows fretful of Ladybird, Bobby mourns for Bandit. Hank tells Bobby it was Bandit's fault, but he refuses to listen. Hank and Dale go to the shelter to ask about Ladybird, but the manager claims that Ladybird may not be found. He also warns them of rabies and how it could spread to humans. Dale foolishly does not tell about his wounds. After Nancy tells him the symptoms, which Dale suddenly obtains after Nancy lists them, and the treatment, which is several painful shots, Dale begins to believe he has rabies because of him believing he has the symptoms, and he's horrified of getting shots, so he's anti-vax. Crazed, Dale hops the fence and dashes into the woods. After a meeting and a break-in by Dale, Hank, Bobby, and the guys go to hunt down Dale. Hank is also growing upset that he might have to shoot Ladybird since Dale seems to be rabid, which means Ladybird is most likely rabid. He feels that he must be the one to put Lady Bird down rather than animal control doing it. In the woods, Hank and Bobby discover a path of dead, stick-impaled animals and are attacked by Dale. It is shown Dale has been eating what appears to be magic mushrooms.
Damn it, Dale.
Damn, Dale.
He also plans to kill Hank and swap his clean blood with his. As Bill and Boomhauer are too busy swimming to help, Hank pretends to go along with the plan by using the knife to cut the ropes, but is found out by Dale. Suddenly, Lady Bird appears and Bobby and Hank break loose. Lady Bird starts to growl and approaches Hank. Bobby grabs the gun and prepares to shoot Lady Bird to Dale's urging. He appears to shoot, but misses Lady Bird, much to Hank's joy, as Lady Bird is not rabid and kisses Hank, showing she is still herself. Bobby sadly claims he didn't miss. His true target was Bandit, who looked like he was going to attack Hank. Dale prepares to fly away off a tree, but expectantly falls to the ground. At a makeshift funeral for Bandit, Hank tells his son that Bandit did not have rabies. Bobby asks to say a few words to Bandit, which turn out to be raccoon-sounding jitters. As the father, son, and dog make their way to the truck, Hank tells Bobby that when Lady Bird does die, he could choose the next pet. Bobby recommends exotic pets such as a possum or an ostrich, much to Hank's displeasure.
No.
How do you go from dog to ostrich?
Dude, I've seen one of those up close. They're fucking scary as hell.
Now, the trick is that once the ostrich lays an egg, the trick is to see if you can actually make scrambled eggs out of the ostrich egg.
Remember, I was like 5 years old when I saw this motherfucker. He was like a giant dinosaur in front of me.
Which, by the way, if you've ever tried to eat scrambled ostrich eggs, apparently the eggs is one of the worst things to eat, according to some people.
Isn't it because it's also like because you don't know like the bacteria in it?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons. And also because there's so much of it that you have to eat. That's like it's so much protein. But it's like, I've heard people say, like, God, this is disgusting.
You can feed a family of 5 with an egg.
Hank tells Bobby that he's been thinking of a more traditional pet, like another dog. Bobby suggests a poodle, and Hank says, no, we're not getting a poodle. Because poodles are for women. We need a dog for men.
Plus, they're mean as fuck.
I don't know. I think Kona's like a half poodle, and like a half a lab. But she seems pretty. She's pretty chill. So
probably the lab part.
Probably maybe the bouncing it
Probably
out. I don't know.
not to mention that she's like what 8 years old.
Yes.
So age might have something to do with it too.
And also she's not a fan of kids though. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this next episode is the Thanksgiving episode of the season. It's called Happy Hanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Nice pun.
So the episode begins with the guys standing in the alley while Hank uses a propane smoker to smoke a turkey for Thanksgiving. Bill is excited and asks Hank if he can come over for dinner, but Hank tells him that he and the family are going to fly to Montana to spend Thanksgiving with Peggy's parents, and because she and her mother don't get along, now she's saying that propane can't smoke a turkey properly. So I was like, I'm going to prove Peggy's mother wrong. Boomhauer points out he's going to go visit his grandma in Florida. And then Bill is bitter about Thanksgiving as his abandonment issues kick in. The next day, the Hill family are loading the car up so they can get to the airport in Dallas and catch their plane that leaves at 4 o'clock. Luann excited to finally see her father after her mother assaulted him with a fork. Unfortunately, Peggy finds out that Hank didn't get Luann a plane ticket. and now he has no choice but to buy one at the airport. As they're about to leave, Bill stops by and tells them that he's going to Dallas to pick up his Uncle Stan, who's flying in for Thanksgiving and wants to drive the family to the airport. At the airport, Bill drops them off and leaves, and a skycap asks Hank if his bags have been out of his sight. Hank tells them that he may have had his back turned for like 60 seconds, but Peggy tells them to just say they were in his sight. But it's like, I can't do that. He asked me a question. I gotta be honest about it. That would be committing perjury. Which alarms the skycap.
Oh, Hank.
Sorry, it was my...
It's alright. So after they get security to check the bag, he asks if there's anything else that they're bringing onto the plane. Hank proudly tells him that he's bringing along a small bottle of propane. He has to put it in a locker. This was even before tighter security measures were put in place after 9/11. He then buys a ticket for Luann, although since he bought it on the day of rather than 6 months ago, he had to pay like $700 for it instead of $250. Which is still expensive. I mean, he bought 3 tickets for $250 for 3 people, so he spent $750 plus the $700 already. So he basically spent $1,500 on plane tickets just to go to Montana.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, outside of the airport, the Gribbles are dropping off John Redcorn, who's going to visit family in Arizona. And when Dale asks him if your people celebrate Thanksgiving, he says, "We did once."
Oh.
Oh.
As he starts to walk into the terminal, Nancy decides to get out and make sure he gets off all right. 4 o'clock is kind of late for a flight. Yeah, it is. There are people that leave in the afternoon, which, by the way, I had to do that when I went to Philly this summer, and I had a 4 o'clock flight to get back home. And I didn't get home until 10. It was not fun. I was on the tarmac for 2 hours because the Philly airport has a rule that a plane has to be 20 miles in the air before the next plane takes off. Because there were like so many influx of flights coming in and out. And it was weird because I was the only flight going to Florida, and all the other airlines next to me were going to Europe. So there was one going to Switzerland, there was one going to Paris, there was one going to Venice. And I'm like, get me on the Venice flight, please. I'll take the flight to Venice instead of going home.
Because you really wanted to go home to Italy, huh?
I've never been to Italy. I would love to visit. Sorry. After seeing the Khan's family for a second, and calling Peggy's mother, the gate agent announces that bad weather will force the delay of the flight. Hank tries to volunteer to make the flight happen, but the gate agent refuses, and Hank angrily leaves. Bill, sad and alone at home, cooks a TV dinner for himself inside a large roasting pan. When he hears that all Dallas-Fort Worth flights are delayed, he grabs his keys and heads back to the airport. Meanwhile, Peggy overhears a rumor from a nearby passenger and thinks the family needs to switch to another flight because they can de-ice the planes. When Hank refuses, Peggy tries to create a diversion to Hank by telling Bobby that a second line is opened up at the cookie shop in the food court so she can lie to him and justify switching the flights. Khan, meanwhile, has commandeered the walk-on-in food booth, claiming to be from the head office to whip up food bowls for his family. Meanwhile, Dale tries to smoke in the Admiral Club of an airline, but a staff member prohibits him. He then tries to smoke at an SUV on display inside the airport and is caught, after which we see that Nancy and John Redcorn are in the back. Finally, he makes it to the outside on the runways and smokes, but a no re-entry sign is on the door, so he's trapped outside. After the Hills return to their original gate, after learning that the second flight doesn't even fly into Billings, Montana, they then learn that the Billings flight has been canceled until tomorrow. Boomhauer heads for a hotel with a stewardess on each arm. Kevin's like, why can't that be me? The Hill family tries to catch a bus to the Econo Suite Hotel, where a block of rooms has been set aside for stranded travelers, but Peggy insists that they will not have enough space on the bus. Bill then arrives to give the family a ride, but after he crashes his car into the back of a truck, they must walk to the hotel. But when they arrive, they see that there is no more vacancy, so they take a cab back to the airport and they end up sleeping in the terminal. The next day, the family gets in line to board the flight, but at the last minute, Hank is required to check the box with his turkey, although he wanted to carry it on the plane but can't because of its awkward shape. The family gets on the plane and sees the crew loading up all the bags. Unfortunately, when they come to Hank's turkey box, the security dogs bark at it. This makes the crew mistakenly believe that the box contains a bomb, so the squad comes out and explodes the box, ruining the turkey to Hank's horror. By the time that's done, it starts raining again, so the plane can't take off, and everybody returns to the airport. Angry at the staff, Hank demands that the gate agent gives him a flight. Hank is informed that the airport is completely shut down, but there's another airport that has a flight from Montana that leaves in an hour, and that his only chance is getting on the one airport bus, which leaves in 5 minutes. The family makes a run for it, and Hank decides that it's time to force his way on the bus, so he makes the driver let his family on, and they barely fit on the bus. Hank is ready to get to Montana, but after seeing another family stranded, he gives up his seats on the bus so the other family can get on. They go back to the airport food court and soon discover that everybody missed their flights and that Boomhauer struck out with a stewardess. And they all sit around and sad. Hank tells them that although their plans have been canceled, everybody is still all together, so they eat their dinner, which is basically a pizza from Papa Capone's, not Papa John's, Papa Capone's. Hank heats the pizza using his propane tank. Peggy decides to MacGyver up a brown Betty out of leftover pizza crusts, and everybody is eating together at the airport, and they have a happy Thanksgiving.
Dude, I would be pissed.
Yeah, I would be too.
Elliot, stop.
If I wrote the episode, I would have been like, God damn these fucking airports. And instead of just eating at the food court, they should have just been like, you know what? Let's go to a pizza joint. All right, so this next one is called Old Glory.
Oh?
So Peggy hears from Bobby that an old rival of hers, Peggy Donovan, has returned to substitute teaching after a 3-year absence, during which time she has apparently earned her master's degree. When Bobby later receives a failing grade on an English essay and is tasked with writing another, Peggy assumes that Donovan is taking her rivalry with her out on her son, suspecting that it all goes back to Peggy having been assigned a better parking space. Meanwhile... Yes, Peggy is that self-centered.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, folks, she is supposed to be a satire of conservative American women from the 90s. Meanwhile, Bill is on the army base when he notices an enormous American flag about to be ceremonially incinerated according to flag retirement protocol. Overcome with nostalgia, he requests that the flag instead be allowed to continue to fly at his own house, and the guys help him install a new flagpole for the occasion. Bobby, struggling for a topic for his new essay, finds inspiration in Bill's oversized flag, but still encounters difficulty in composing any text. So, pandering to his mother's ego, he talks Peggy into writing the essay for him. She, eager to show Donovan up, is all too glad to comply. Peggy writes the opening of the essay as if you take the U out of USA, what do you get? Essay! An essay that will explain to you why Bobby Hill loves America. That sounds very corny, but again.
These are corny people.
Sure enough, the essay receives an A, but Peggy becomes jealous when Bobby takes all the credit, even as Donovan openly praises his writing skills in front of her. Her frustrations are compounded with her musings column is cut out of the newspaper, and it come to a head when Hank's attempt at reassuring her is to tell her to be more like Bobby, where she reveals to Hank's angry dismay that she's the real author of the essay. Meanwhile, word of Bobby's talents spreads to his classmates, who begin asking him to write write their essays for them. Stumped, Bobby secretly raids Peggy's unpublished musing stockpile for material. The plan backfires, however, when Peggy begins submitting her columns again by buying advertising space in the newspaper to print them in, and Donovan runs across one, noticing that it reads word for word the same as another student's essay. So noticing that the rest of the class had turned in similarly written essays on unlikely topics, she tracks down Peggy, who assumes that her computer had been hacked into, until Donovan also reveals that several students had confessed to having Bobby write their essays for him. Peggy furiously summons Bobby in defense mode. He reveals to Donovan that Peggy had written the original flag essay for him, saddling him with expectations to maintain, or newfound ones. A triumphant Donovan then insists that Peggy and Bobby confess and apologize at an upcoming school-wide assembly, under the threat that she will otherwise lodge a formal plagiarism complaint with the principal. Too proud to lose to Donovan, Peggy proposes instead that the two of them save themselves by giving an inspirational salute to the flag in a similar vein to the original essay, believing that any attempt by Donovan to turn them in will be dismissed as unpatriotic. So the night before the assembly, they decide to set up an elaborate display using Bill's flag, which they then set about stealing, only to tear it up and make it dirty when they run it over with Hank's truck. Later, their pyrotechnics attempt causes the flag to catch fire during a rehearsal of their intended salute. And they're forced to abandon that idea. Anonymously leaving the tattered remains of the flag in Bill's yard. Out of guilt, Peggy and Bobby accompany a distraught and tearful Bill to the army base, where he's crying like it's like his long-lost puppy died. Where the flag is ceremonially incinerated at last. Later at the assembly, Bobby admits that Peggy wrote his essay and many others, but then launches into an eloquent speech about finally coming to appreciate the flag upon witnessing a grown man crying to see one destroyed. seeing an incel cry over a flag. That's what inspired Bobby's essay. Thus foiling Donovan's plan to exact revenge from Peggy over the aforementioned parking space.
What?
Oh, this one.
Does he see something still?
He's jumping on my chair, hitting me in the face. I don't know what he wants.
I want water.
Oh, this next one's my favorite because this is the Y2K episode.
Fun.
It's called Helenium. So Christmas is days away, and Hank is shopping for a tree for the year. He's then informed by the disgruntled salesman named Chappie that Y2K is coming on, that his customers are restoring to buying supplies because of fear that the computers will shut down. While talking with Chappie, Hank learns that Chappie takes care of Chappie. Hank, not believing the Y2K story, explains all will be fine. But as he returns home and shares a beer and discuss the hysteria going on with Bill and Boomhauer, they see Dale arriving and acting unexpectedly confident about the government. It is revealed that Dale is completely prepared for the impending crisis that is approaching, and he has hoarded supplies that would last him and his family for a long time. Meanwhile, Peggy is growing increasingly bothered with their K-Pro computer and concerned that it may be Y2K compliant. It may not be Y2K compliant. The Hill's not worrying and focused on Christmas. All head to Megalomart, where panicked customers are purchasing supplies to prepare. Since the night throughout the next day, Peggy decides to print all the information stored on her computer to prevent loss of data. However, she discovers that the information has all been printed on the same line over and over, ruining her personal information. Hank is then convinced to go Christmas shopping while taking Dale and Bobby along. The three shop by an arcade, which is in the process of a Y2K compliance check, but discover that the Whack-A-Mole game is still running as it is only functioning through pins and pulley. Later, the group stops by the computer store and are picking a computer, only to have to deal with a troubled employee complaining about the register malfunctioning due to the Y2K bug. While with Bill, Peggy persuades Bill to share what Hank is up to and discovers that Hank is purchasing a new computer. The next day, Dale discovers that his supplies have been destroyed by his pet gerbil and panics about the Y2K crisis.
Flooded the basement, right?
Yes. It's like, no, why do you betray me? Hank also starts to panic when a trusted chairman of the propane industry tells him that the computers failed to send appropriate supplies of propane to Strickland, only to hoard it for himself. When returning home and completely panicked, Peggy believes Hank is merely acting to get rid of the old computer. Hank also is confronted by Dale, who confesses that he's been stocking up like Hank and is confused what to do. Hank then visits Chappie, the same salesman who sold him his tree, and the three decide to prepare for the crisis. What my favorite part about this was when Hank and Dale go to see Chappie. Chappie goes into this whole conspiracy theory written rant, and Dale's like, "That's it? This is the guy that's gonna save us from destruction?" It was fucking hilarious.
Little shit.
And Hank, after purchasing a grandfather clock for Peggy instead, then scares Bobby into the Y2K crisis himself, and the two begin to stock up from Megalomart. The next day on Christmas, the family are opening gifts, only with Luann and Peggy upset with theirs. As Peggy is to take Luann and Bobby to get appropriate Christmas present, Hank passes out from the varnish he used to repair the clock he purchased for Peggy. He then has a dream in which he and several others, including Peggy and Bobby, are moles in a Whack-A-Mole game, and is trying to get everyone off the platform, with Bobby in the corner cowering in a toilet paper fort. However, he sees a mole that is reminiscent of Tom Landry, the famous Cowboys coach, and is told that even if the situation looked grim, he could still enjoy what was going on the outside. Hank, convinced, then lets himself out of the hole and wakes up from the dream. He soon crashes through the garage with his mower and assures his family that all will be okay. At night, after making a pile of the Christmas gifts, Hank apologizes that he almost ruined Christmas and explains that the Y2K is nothing to be afraid of. He lets Bobby light the pile on fire, and Peggy tells him not to burn the grandfather clock. Hank then shares that he's gotten Peggy a new Apple computer, making her delighted, and then she throws the clock onto the fire, knowing that she got a computer. So she's like, "Oh, don't ruin the clock, it's a great gift." "Oh, I got you a computer." "Oh, fuck the clock." So the next one is called Rodeo Days. Bobby goes to work with Hank out in the country on a propane run. This is where Hank's customer tells Hank of an upcoming calf wrangle. Hank tries to encourage Bobby, who is soon dressed in cowboy clothes and practices with Joseph. The day comes, though, and unlike Joseph and the others, Bobby can't tip the calf, and it drags him around. He is saved, or distracted, by the rodeo clowns. He soon wishes to join them and confronts them about doing so. He steals Bill's underwear, a pair of glasses, Peggy's shoes, and Luann's makeup to complete the look before training with the clowns. He keeps his act as a clown secret from Hank, who does not approve of rodeo clowns. Meanwhile, Joseph is succeeding as a young cowboy and begins to become embarrassed as Bobby uses his antics at school. Finally, one day, Bobby performs in front of an audience when his father sees. Hank believed Bobby was a cowboy and didn't recognize him until Bill recognized the clothes. God damn it, Bill. At this time, Joseph, fearing that his new friends will make fun of him for associating with Bobby, makes jokes with the other cowboys, and Bobby is hurt. At home, Hank takes Bobby's clown clothes and insists that he doesn't stay a rodeo clown. Peggy also reveals that her uncle, who she said was in the rodeo, was really a clown and not a cowboy. Soon after, they return to the rodeo as spectators to watch Joseph ride a baby bull. When he falls off and the clowns are attacked before they can save him, Hank helps Bobby redress as a clown and encourages him to save Joseph. Using his routine, Bobby distracts the bull as they retrieve Joseph and gets the audience to laugh. After the rodeo, Joseph and Bobby make up and Joseph gives Bobby one of his buckles. It's like, you deserved it. And so, boom, that's that. Oh boy, this next one. This is the naked episode. This is the one where Bobby sees Luann naked in the shower. And then Joseph's all like, oh, I want to see your cousin naked. And then like goes out of his way just to try to see her naked. So after a day of swimming at the river, Bobby goes into the changing room only to accidentally walk in on Luann completely naked. When Luann notices this while drying her hair with a towel, she screams, with Bobby screaming as well. She covers her boobs and closes the drapes, but she only pushed them to the other side. She relaxes for a second, but notices that Bobby is still seeing her naked and they both scream again. Bobby runs out of the changing room, and his mother asks him if he has seen Luann, but he responds saying, "No, she's my cousin!" When Joseph hears the story, his imagination runs wild, and he wants to see her new too. Later on, while he's at Bobby's house, he tries to peep through the keyhole until realizing that there isn't one. So he sneaks in the back with a pair of binoculars to try and peep through the window, only to find that it's too foggy. Luann hears sounds in the hall and comes out in the towel to see Bobby. She gets the wrong idea and believes that Bobby was trying to see her shower. She explains to Bobby that it's natural for a boy wanting to see a woman naked, but she is his cousin. It's not okay to peek on or have sexual thoughts of your cousin. Luann reminds him of the incident and assures him that the first time he saw her naked, which was yesterday, was an accident, but she warns him that if she ever catches him peeping on her while she's changing her in the shower again, he will go to hell. So she closes the door, but not before he notices Joseph trying to peek through the window. So Bobby chases after him and tries to stop him, only to rotate to Connie's window just as she is opening it up wearing a bathrobe. Until it's revealed she was just wearing pajamas underneath. So she thought that they were spying on her. Meanwhile, Boomhauer falls asleep in his inner tube as the stream takes him out of the river into a sewer. He then wakes up and goes to land only to find out that he's in Houston. In his current condition of a sunburn and wearing nothing but swimming shorts, plus hearing the way he talks, the public mistake him for a confused man and the cop takes him to a mental health center. Or an insane asylum. He then tries to call Dale to get him out, but Dale winds him getting himself in, because Dale is being himself. So they both call... So they both call Bill to have them pick them up, only for Bill to join a group of depressed people. They're eventually released when they call Hank after a failed escape attempt. Bill decides to stay on for a few more days. He apparently has developed a taste for being institutionalized. Connie starts going out with Chang, which is who his parents want her to date. Bobby sneaks into Connie's room one night after a date with Chang, and he tells her the truth about him and Joseph peeping on Luann. They agree to get naked in front of each other, but are caught by Con. Con attempts to separate them by building a fence and installing a motion detection light. Connie and Bobby both sneak out, climb the fence, and start kissing. That's got to be the most uncomfortable thing. You're both on ladders trying to kiss over a fence. What if one of you falls?
Mm-hmm.
Hank aids Bobby in getting a ladder from the garage from his attitude. Hank gets the impression that he's relieved that Bobby appears to be straight and not gay. I was like, oh, thank God. Thank God he likes women. Following this, Con catches Bobby and Connie kissing and chases him in a rage and climbs the ladder as he threatens Bobby. Luann gets out of the shower and sees Con through the bathroom window, to where she shrieks and yells out for Peggy about Con seeing her being naked, which frustrates Joseph, who's riding his bike down the street. He's like, oh, damn it! It's like, why can't it have been me? Oh, now we're going to my favorite two-parter of this entire ordeal. This is the one where, Buck Strickland is going through a divorce.
Oh, lovely.
Like, Hank is gonna get an award for, like the Blue Flame of Valor award, and he's like, I'm gonna dedicate my speech to my boss who made me who I am today. So as he's like is like, S is for this, T is for this, R is for this, I is for jackass. And it's, meanwhile, while he's giving this speech, his boss is making out with one of his coworkers. He's trying to say, like, oh, this is such a compassionate man. He's got a lot of code. He's got honor and dignity. Meanwhile, he's cheating on his wife with with Debbie. Right in front of everybody. So Miss Liz comes in and says, I want you out of the house and out of the lake house. By the way, Debbie is voiced by Reese Witherspoon.
Mm-hmm.
What most people don't know is Miss Congeniality, or no, not Miss Congeniality.
Legally Blonde, she was in.
Yes, Legally Blonde. Which people have said is a very accurate court film.
I wouldn't know.
Wait, you never watched Legally Blonde?
I said I have watched, but I'm not sure about the whole court thing.
Oh yeah, there was a lawyer who actually watched it. It's like, yeah, this is actually pretty accurate of how law school is.
Legal Eagle?
Yeah.
Damn.
Well,
Like,
adding
even
onto this, Miss Liz is voiced by Kathleen Turner,
yes.
aka the speaking voice of Jessica Rabbit in Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Wow, so she went from Jessica Rabbit to being Miss Liz and going after Hank. Yeah, so, like, because of the divorce, like, she actually gets control of the propane business. Meanwhile, Buck actually gives, like, Sugarfoots, the restaurant that he owns, over to Hank. And Peggy's like, oh, and since this is a property state, I get 50%. So she completely tries to take over the restaurant. Even though the restaurant's doing fine on its own. He's like, we gotta make changes. This place needs a change. It's like, no, the restaurant's making money. Everything's good. It's like, nope, it needs to be called Peggy's Sugarfoots.
Oh, Lord. Peggy, you asshole.
Like, she completely changes it. Like, it's like those typical, like, It's like one of those grill places where there's sawdust on the floor. It's got like a very what's the word I'm looking for? It's got a very I don't know what to call it.
Mom and pop shop?
It's not not mom and pop, but it's got like a not an aura, but it's got a
Energy?
Wild West.
Aesthetic?
an aesthetic to it. Yes, it's an aesthetic that people find pleasing when you're eating grilled food. But she completely turns it into like one of those fine dining restaurants. Calls it Peggy Sugarfoot's, and then has a train like what they had at Johnny Rockets back in the day. And the train has, it says no substitutions on it, and it's like a picture of Peggy on the train.
Ugh.
By the way, this is how Buck and Miss Liz get back together, because they see the restaurants fucked up. But anyway, but getting back to it, so
Brought back together because of Peggy's fuck up.
yes, exactly.
Yep.
Because everyone's like, what the fuck happened to this place?
What did you do to our baby?
What
The
did you-
restaurant?
We gave our baby nourishment, and all you did now is just feed it chocolate every day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And of course the baby's gonna say yes. You monster. Anyway, but so Miss Liz takes over Strickland Propane, and the lawyer was so funny. He's like, now you get your butt out of this place before my ostrich boo puts your egos back in the toaster. Hank's looking at that like, wow, that guy just told my boss he was going to kick his ass. God, he's manlier than I am. Anyway,
I wish
so
she said that to Peggy, though.
but so Miss Liz decides to promote Hank, decides to give Hank a promotion, which Hank's obviously excited for. But then what Miss Liz calls Hank over to her house because there's a propane emergency. So she dresses up in a kimono. She's got her hair all pinned up and everything, and Hank walks into the room, and it's like a bathtub full of candles. He's completely oblivious to this. And then all of a sudden he starts picking it up when she starts like opening up a bottle of champagne for 2 glasses. And I mean, he's like, yeah, 2 glasses just in case the first one breaks.
Let's remember, this is the same idiot who thought marijuana was a fucking cigarette.
Oh, we'll get to that because that's the episode right after this. Remember, this is a 2-parter. This was probably one of the best King of the Hill like episodes right here. But she's like, Hank, let's get in there and make us some soup.
Ew. I hate to
No.
say that way.
Is that a real saying?
Not in my lifetime. According to Miss Liz, it's like we were making a bowl of us.
A soup.
Us soup. Hank falls in the bathtub. Hank falls in the bathtub and just runs away in horror. They're just like, poor Hank. All he wanted to do was fix a propane leak. And here's this woman that's trying to cheat on her supposedly ex-husband for all the stuff he did to him or her. It's like, this is revenge. Also, while she's like, I apologize for what happened last night, Hank. You are a true gentleman. So to reward you for like how gentlemanly you are, I'm gonna make you wear short shorts in front of all of our employees. And everyone else starts calling her a boy toy. And he's like, what does that mean? That means you're Miss Liz's Debbie. By the way, Miss Liz...
Yeah, you're her bitch now, Hank.
Yeah. By the way, Miss Liz has Debbie doing tank wipe because it's the most degrading job.
Doesn't she also like have him wear a different uniform? Or am I thinking?
Yeah,
something else?
it's the
He's
uniform.
wearing a short.
Yes, he's wearing short shorts so that he can look at his ass. He's basically wearing a blue shirt with like some very short blue shorts. It's like basically Daisy Dukes without being Daisy Dukes.
Yeah.
That's why they call him Boy Toy. Meanwhile, Buck and Debbie are arguing because Buck is now living in Debbie's like apartment with their roommate, and he's trying to get like hair out of the drain in the bathtub while completely naked, and he's just like, Debbie's like, I can't take this anymore. So Hank decides to get back into smoking because he's all stressed out because he doesn't want to tell Peggy about what happened. So he goes to the cigarette store to get a pack of cigarettes. All of a sudden, Debbie's in his truck trying to seduce him in her bra and panties. And he's like, I'm sorry, at this moment, I'm going to have to reject your advances. He's like, this ain't over. Nobody rejects Debbie Brown. Well, I just did. And then all of a sudden, Buck just shows up at Hank's house. It's like, well, the little Miss Plaintiff told me about how you were making soup in my house, Hank. What? You told, Miss Liz, you told Buck that we made soup when you know we most certainly did not make soup. Buck is like, I want my wife back. And then Miss Liz is like, oh my God, I ruined your good name while trying to make Buck jealous, and now Buck's all crying. I feel bad. Well, why don't the two of... Then Hank tries to set them up to meet at Sugarfoot's to try to get them back together. Meanwhile, like, all of a sudden, Hank gets a phone call, and it's Debbie on the other line, saying, like, I'm gonna go over to Sugarfoot's right now and tell your wife that we fucked.
Wait, no, first it started as a little old lady, and then it was Debbie.
Yes, it's like, hey, put that old lady back on. She might talk some sense into you. And then it's like, no, there's no need to go tell Peggy, because then it would be harder for us to pursue our relationship.
That's the point.
It's like, so we're gonna do it. Yes, we are going to do it. Therefore, I am now going to drive over there, baby. Hangs up the phone. Oh, I just had phone sex. Oh. Which, by the way, I put that scene up on my Instagram, and I just said, like, this is what an ace goes through during phone sex. And people are like, is that really true? I'm like, yes, we are not comfortable with that type of dirty talk.
You think Hank Hill is ace, actually?
I do, and I also think Peggy is, too.
Alright.
Yeah, that's why it's like you never see them, like, you don't see them ever getting, like, physically involved with each other out in public, and they never really talk about, and, like, people's perception of Hank is like, I know you don't have sex. Like, well, that's not true. We do. We just don't put it out in the public for everyone to know. Like Bill, who has to talk about how he had sex with 2 women at his mansion. And not like Boomhauer, who has sex with stewardesses at the hotel. Or purposely takes a body cast so he could play doctor with one of his girlfriends.
I tell you what.
And not like Dale, who in a later episode in this season says, like, yes, who just had sex with his wife last night.
Damn it, Dale.
So
I think
What?
I'm on DeviantArt right now, and I think I found the category where furries put their art. I've seen too much.
Yes, you have. So the two
I think we all have seen so much.
So Buck and Miss Liz get back together. All of a sudden, Peggy goes out in the back of the restaurant and finds Debbie dead in a dumpster. And then this is the to be continued thing. It's like, oh, who shot Debbie?
We know what happens.
Well, here's what happens. Hank immediately tries to drive over to Debbie's apartment so that he can talk to her. And then he's like, huh, this is a funny looking cigarette. And he's like, what is this? Dude, that's marijuana. He's like, oh my God, I just smoked weed. And he just took one puff, by the way.
Dude, it's not like you smoked the whole fucking doobie. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, but no, he's
trying to make himself throw up.
Yeah, he's trying to make himself throw up because, like, well, that will get the weed out of my system.
No, it won't.
And by the way, they get one of the actors from Texas Walker Ranger. That's not Chuck Norris on the show to do investigation on who killed Debbie. And then, of course, Hank is more concerned about the cops finding out he smoked weed, more about the fact that he's the prime suspect in the murder of Debbie. And, of course, Buck is trying to frame Hank for the murder because he thinks that Miss Liz killed her at first. But then he tries to set up, I was like, wait a minute, did I kill her? But then he tries to take credit for killing Debbie because he was trying to impress Miss Liz.
Oh, Lord.
And then Hank's like, yes, I smoked weed, Bobby. I did the one thing I told you that I wouldn't do. I smoked weed. And then, of course, the Texas Walker Ranger guy basically just lays out the whole thing. It's like, none of you know who did it. I actually know who did it. Well, then who did it? Who killed Debbie? Debbie killed Debbie. What? Shocker. What happened? Well,
Can I say it?
Go ahead.
The bitch accidentally shot herself.
Yes. While trying to kill somebody else.
Exactly.
They basically stole the plot line from a Star Trek The Next Generation episode. Because one of the main characters was going through an investigation because they thought, like, one of the main characters killed off somebody. And then it finds out the victim actually was trying to kill one of the main characters, but he foolishly killed himself in the process. And everyone's
the
just...
idea is, like, when they're revealing what happened, how Debbie walked into a convenience store, still holding the gun. And
Exactly.
food.
Yeah, like a big gulp and like nachos and shit, trying to juggle a fucking gun and all the food.
Then Bobby gets to set up punishment for Hank.
This is funny.
He bans Hank for mowing the lawn.
He's like, oh, come on, Bobby. It was just one puff. You want to make it 2 weeks? Sorry, Bobby. Basically telling Hank you can't mow the lawn for the week is like the biggest thing. It's like, oh no. Okay, next episode.
Gotta set his priorities straight.
Next episode is the pyramid scheme one, where Peggy legitimately thinks she's a saleswoman, but it's like, no, you're part of a pyramid scheme. And Peggy's like, no, it's not a pyramid scheme. It's called a triangle. So she gets Bill to help her out, and Bill basically sells everything, but Peggy tries to take credit for it. And then they go to nationals over in, I think, what was it, in like one of the major cities, and then Peggy starts like complimenting him and saying that she loves him, and then Bill's like, oh no, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. I don't want to be a part of it. Apparently, if you No, it's not even that. It's not even because Hank's his best friend. It's because Bill's the type of person that will not accept a woman giving him compliments. He has to be belittled and insulted in order for him to feel like he's getting attention from women. So
basically, he's the most cis-like of the group.
The who?
Most cis-like from The Simpsons.
Yeah, why is it that when my face went through the shredder, it went back exactly the way it was before the plastic surgery that I got? Anyway,
I don't know.
But yeah, Bill. So Peggy starts treating him like shit because that's the only way that he'll start selling more stuff. But then she starts to feel pity for him when his foot starts to bleed from all the boxes that he has to carry into her car because she refuses to do any of the work. And then she's like, I apologize. I consider you my friend. And Bill's like, oh, I have a friend. But you already have friends, Bill. But a woman wants to be my friend.
Jeez, you simp.
I've never even been friend-zoned before. Like, imagine that. Imagine, like, a Kevin coming up to you and saying, I just been friend-zoned and I'm excited. Why are you excited? It's like, I thought you weren't down for that type of stuff. He's like, no, women wouldn't even friend-zone me in the past because they thought I was a creep. But now I've been friend-zoned. Somebody I can actually talk to on the phone. Maybe I could change her and she will fall in love with me. No, Kevin, she's already married. Well, maybe they could get a divorce. It's like, no, they would have to do something wild, like cheating on each other or something. Maybe making soup in a hot tub somewhere, but no, that's not happening, Kevin. The next one is called Moving On Up. This is the one where Luann moves out of the house and actually buys the house of the Pops guy, old man that used to live on their neighborhood, but then he died riding his lawnmower. He died of a heart attack riding his lawnmower.
The way Hank wants to go out.
So the guys decide the guys decide to buy the property so they could build a clubhouse. But then Luann buys the house because she's tired of living under Hank's rules. So she gets a bunch of roommates, and the roommates don't follow her rules. And she's like, oh my God, I've turned into Uncle Hank. And Hank's like, why is that such a big deal? It's like, Peggy's like, Hank, she's upset because she's becoming exactly like you, the thing she didn't want to become. She didn't want to become a monster that tells people how to live by her rules. Yeah, and by the way, her roommates treat her like she's Hitler because of her draconian rules, apparently. Like, no, they're not draconian. I mean, you can at least help out around the house. Nope, completely Nazi. And by the way, her version of Hank mowing the lawn is her cleaning the pool. And by the way, Hank's jealous because she's got a pool and he doesn't. Oh, the next one's called Meet the Propaniacs. This is when Bobby wants to go to comedy camp during the summer, but Hank doesn't allow him to. So he's like, why don't you come work at Strickland Propane for the summer? And it's like, well, we got to get sales up. So what do? They decide to do a comedy troupe called the Propaniacs. And their theme song is she's a maniac, but instead of that, it's the Propaniacs, and we'll make you laugh and laugh and laugh some more. So they start doing tours they start doing comedy tours all over the propane companies. And Hank actually laughs at the jokes, and Peggy's like, I don't get this. It's like, that's because you don't know propane, Peggy. It's funny if you know propane. So they decide to like, oh, hey, let's do this big performance in front of the entire propane association, where the guy that completely runs the entire propane in Texas. That's like, yeah, let's do the cop bit. You know, why don't we bring the guy up, like the president? Let's bring him up on stage and have him pretend to be in in one of the skits, like the cop skit that we're gonna do. And, of course, Joe Jack, who's part of the troupe, is like, oh, God, I don't think that's a good idea. So Joe Jack gets drunk, so he can't perform as the cop. So then Hank's got to pretend to be the cop. All of a sudden, Joe Jack comes in wearing a diaper and with a lollipop in his hand.
What?
And Hank's like, what the fuck are you doing? And then you find out that the president actually wears diapers. And that it was they completely embarrassed him in front of the entire conference because, yes, that diaper. But yeah, so it's completely embarrassed him in front of it because Hank didn't realize he wears diapers. But Joe Jack did know and didn't bother to tell Bobby, Luann, or the other people working in the show. So the Propane Association says the Propaniacs can't perform at any of the propane stores anymore. So Hank's like, well, we could still do the show at the mall. Let's do it at the mall. So they perform at the show at the mall and nobody gets the jokes because they're doing it in front of a non-propane crowd. But Hank's the only one that's laughing, so Bobby decides to perform just for his dad. At the end of it. And by the way, Dale's like, oh, there's this cool thing I could do with my keyboard. I could do the theme song. And he's basically playing synthwave music. Oh god, this next one. This is the Buddhist episode where all the Buddhists believe that that Bobby is
the
like
reincarnation.
Yes, Bobby's the reincarnation. You're talking like a song from The Lion King. Stop it. It makes no sense. What? That's the most asinine thing. I'm going to kick your ass. If my ass is going to get kicked, then let it get kicked. Ah! You can't handle that somebody's like, oh, kick my ass? Fine. And then Bobby gets out of it for no apparent reason. It's like, yeah, it was cool, but nah, whatever. Oh, this next one. Well, Hank's barber finally starts losing it. His mind is going. And so like one day he gets like a haircut from the guy and it turns bleach blonde like NSYNC. It's like the type of haircut that Lance Bass used to have.
Yikes.
Oh no.
So he's like, I gotta find another barber. And so Bill convinces him, hey, why don't I cut your hair at the barber shop? But then it turns out that Bill's not allowed to cut other people's hair unless they're in the army. So at some point it's like, well, we have to cut the hair cutting program from the army. Oh, by the way, like the bill that Hank had to pay for his haircut from Bill, $900.
Ouch.
And Hank's like, I'm not paying this much for a haircut. And then the army's like, oh, we have to get rid of the haircut, the barber program. And then they secretly build a barber shop somewhere else because the people there are just like, oh my god, I can't get a haircut anywhere else from Bill other than Bill Dauterive. He cuts the best hair. So it's a comedy of errors.
Money.
By the way, Hank's original barber just put shaving cream on top of his head and then tried to get rid of it with a blow dryer. Oh, some people said that Hank's haircut is supposed to be reminiscent of Bart Simpson's hair. Apparently. Anyway. Up this next one. So Hank gets an invitation to have a family of 4 eat at an Italian restaurant. So he decides to take Peggy, and then Dale just invites himself to it. It's like, I'll take Nancy and we'll go out to dinner. And then John Redcorn just decides, like, you know what? I'm tired of fucking you, Nancy. Like, we've been fucking for the past 15 years. You know what? I just need a break from your vagina. So Nancy, completely taken aback by this, just decides to go to the restaurant with Dale and Hank and Peggy. Of course, like, Dale starts getting all flirty with her, and then they have a few glasses of wine, and, like, Nancy's like, oh, I didn't realize you watched me on the news. It's like, yeah, I know all about your weather reports. I watch it every day.
Aww.
And then while drunk they have sex. Nancy wakes up. It's like, oh my god, I just cheated on John Redcorn with my husband.
The irony.
And of course, Peggy's all for this. Like, yes, you had sex with your husband. Yes, this is good. You should keep having sex with him and stop cheating on him. It's like, no, I love John Redcorn. I can't give up on him.
Damn it, damn it. So why didn't she divorce Dale?
Marriage of conveniency, probably.
Probably, yeah.
Because remember, these are conservatives. They don't believe in divorce.
As long as you got stability and all that.
People that say that are there the people that say that the only way to get out of a marriage is to kill them? Like kill the spouse?
Unless they divorce and they marry somebody with more money. That's the only way that divorce is ever accepted. If a woman gets married into a better situation after they divorce the other guy, then yeah, that's the only way it's accepted in conservative circles. Doesn't matter how old they are either. They could be like 30 years their senior, and it's like, oh, perfectly acceptable. You're marrying someone who's a billionaire. Anyway, so Dale decides to help John Redcorn out by helping him try to get some land. While all of this is going on. And then Nancy walks in on them. It's like, John Redcorn, are you cheating on me with my husband? That's like, what are you talking about? He's helping me try to get my land back. It's like, Nancy, it's not what you think. And it's like, hey, will you keep and then Dale makes one final plea. It's like, John Redcorn, my wife is not happy. She keeps getting these headaches. Will you keep healing my wife? And then John Redcorn's like, no. You've been a real friend to me, Dale, and I don't want to ruin our friendship, so I will not keep healing your wife. And this is the episode where John Redcorn no longer is a primary character. He kind of gets written off after this point. Sure, he gets a few episodes here and there, but he gets a few episodes here and there, but it's never the same after this.
Yeah.
From his supposed redemption arc?
He kind of gets treated like a goofy character afterwards. And people kind of felt...
He had a lot of potential.
Yeah, he did. And people kind of felt peeved about it. It's like, the only thing that made him relevant in the show is when he was cheating on... When he was involved in an affair with another woman. Now that he's not doing that anymore, they kind of treated him like a joke. Like, oh, hey, he's a rock star, and he does, children's theater. And then that's really all... And then, I was like, oh, haha, isn't it funny that John Redcorn, the guy with six-pack abs, can't play kickball? He kind of gets treated as an afterthought after this episode. Okay, this next episode, we're getting into the foot fetish.
Ew.
Yeah, this is the episode where, what was it? That Peggy is ashamed of how big her feet are because they decide to go to a bowling alley for a double date night with Nancy and Dale. And she's embarrassed to reveal her shoe size in front of everybody. So, she ends up going to, one of those, shoe stores that sells, big shoes for women. And, one of the women there's like, I know exactly how you feel. Here, go to this guy named Grant Trimble. He'll help you out. And so Grant just tries to convince her that, oh, hey, we're going to do an educational film about feet. And really, it's just it's just a foot fetish site. Even to the point where they use a paddle to smack the feet, and every time the paddle smacks it, you can hear Peggy going, "Hoo yeah, hoo yeah." Even all the guys know about it, before Hank does, and they show him the fetish site on the internet, and then Hank has to tell Peggy, Peggy, This is not an educational video that you're doing. People watch your feet because it's a fetish for them. They just like seeing big feet. And so Peggy goes to Grant and says, "You lied to me. You said that my feet would be educational. This was going to empower women." And he's like, "Yeah, it was going to be empowering to women in the beginning, but then we realized that we had a male audience. So we had to try to capture the male audience in order to get women empowerment up and running. Like, women empowerment can only be successful if men are the ones that are the fans in this situation." So he convinces Peggy to keep going along with it. It's like, well, I can only empower women by getting men involved. Of course, which is just a big lie. It's like, oh, we're just gonna keep going with this. And then once Peggy tries to convince the others about this, it's like, no, it's still a foot fetish thing. And then finally Grant tells him, like, look, your feet aren't beautiful, Peggy. Your feet are ugly. And guess what? Men are attracted to ugly feet. Why do you think I kept having them in corned beef hash and eggs? Like, nobody wants to see your feet surrounded in flowers. So you have ugly feet. Peggy goes home crying.
Yo.
Doesn't he throw money at her too?
That too. So Peggy goes home crying, and then Bobby says, "Look, I'm fat, but it doesn't bother me. I mean, I'm funny. I have a girlfriend. And look at all the positive things that are happening in my life. What are you gonna do, Mom?" So she finally goes to the bowling alley, and she proudly says, "My name is Peggy Hill, and I declare to get me an 18 size sneaker." Oh, we don't need to know your name. Just give us your shoe size. All right, so this next episode...
Oh, there's an animation error in one of them where they
Yes.
forgot to give her 5 toes.
Ah, the classic Simpsons joke. 5 fingers? Ew. This next episode is the low-flow toilet episode. Where, like, the commission has to install new low-flow toilets because the high-flow ones are costing money. And then people have to, like, flush numerous times.
And there's a drought going on.
That too.
Echo.
And then Hank tries to make it so that the high flow toilets get back, but then of course political corruption gets into place. And the way they get out of it is they convince they were able to make it so that the people on the commission drink enough water, or they eat some food or whatever, like that has laxatives in it, I believe, to make them go to the bathroom. And then when they realize the low flow toilets don't do anything, it's like, oh, you are so right, Hank.
You did a filibuster, right?
Yeah.
Peggy reading off her one-liners.
Yes, that's the old way and how they used to do filibusters back in the day. They don't do that now in government. At least not on the federal government. I don't know if they still do it on a local level. But, yeah, back in the old days, a lot of times if you wanted to filibuster something in Congress, you had to sit there for like 12 hours and read off an entire list of things.
Didn't Hank's lawn die in this episode?
Who?
Hank. His lawn.
Yeah, and then Bobby was trying to revitalize it by using water, which somebody actually caught on camera, and they used that against Hank.
Water that he got from Khan after catching and bribing the water company employee.
Yeah.
He originally used to have long baths, and then he had to give that up, and can't remember the exact details, but I'm pretty sure Khan made him, like, wouldn't let him use the door again.
Yeah. All right, the next episode, Peggy thinks that Randy Travis stole one of her songs.
He did in this episode.
He did. He actually did. And then Peggy's like, "He stole my song," and Hank's like, "It's Randy Travis. Why would he steal one of your songs?" And And then she tells him an inspirational story, and then he actually uses the inspirational story on stage. It's like, oh, you got your evidence now? And so the guys decide, like, oh, it would be great if we dip Randy Travis into the lake while he's in a trailer. And then Hank has to save Randy Travis from the trailer.
That's a little fucked up. Like, oh, they stole Peggy's song. Let's drown the guy.
Yep. And by the way, they're like, oh, hey, let's bring Hank on stage as, like, my hero. But then Randy Travis is like, here's the guy that I saved who was stuck in a trailer. And Hank's like, oh, fuck you. By the way, this is also happening at the same time. Bobby is trying to, Bobby is, like feeling bad because, like, he's going to be separate from Connie. And it's like, oh, my God, well, what if she doesn't call me? Or what if she doesn't call me? And we spend like 2 minutes. It was like, oh my God, we only talked 2 minutes on the phone. What if she hates me? And it's like, and I think like one of the Brooks guys was like, no, it's probably because her father is probably because her father's controlling it, doesn't want him on the phone. Oh my God, she wouldn't come to the phone. What if she hates me? So to make it up to the guys, like I think he decides to take one of Peggy's brown Betties, but they accidentally drop it on the grass. So they try to put it back together and they feed it to the guy and he gets sick.
Ooh, dropping it in manure.
Yes.
Giving him E. coli.
And then the final episode. This is what I consider the Dawson's Creek episode, if anybody remembers that show. Because it's got that infamous song.
I don't watch it.
Well, it was mostly famous for having that song is like, I don't want to wait for our lives to be over. I think it had Katie Holmes in it as one of the main characters of the show back then.
It did.
Yeah, but it was like one of the more popular teenage dramas back in the day. Like everybody I knew watched it. Yeah, hell, my sister wasn't a teenager at the time and she was watching it. Yeah, so like Bobby's 13th birthday's approaching, but like all of a sudden Joseph like goes through like some major puberty. Like to the point where he's no longer voiced by Brittany anymore. Like he's completely voiced by somebody new. Oh, and I think this is also the one where like Connie and Joseph kiss in this one. And then Bobby's like, what the fuck?
Ken
Like-
Meyer.
Yeah, like Bobby just goes up and punches Joseph in the face like, why'd you kiss my girlfriend? Oh, and also there's like a point where he kisses Ming because he looked at her cleavage. Yeah, so Joseph is now super horny. Because now he's like gone, like he grew like several inches.
Taller than Dale.
Yeah, so this is like the episode that like really tests like Bobby and Joseph's friendship. Like even then it's like, because Bobby still hasn't gone through puberty, but Connie's got what is it? Connie's got has got her periods going now, and Joseph's now horny all the time. So it's like those two things colliding, and then Bobby's like, I'm the one being left out. Why are these two all of a sudden attracted to each other again?
Get out of the tree!
So yeah, that's practically season 4 right there.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not
I need
one...
to...
What circus?
I'm screaming at the cat, basically. Get out of the tree!
Not gonna happen.
Uh-huh.
Wait a minute.
So like I was saying, it's like
the
probably
same guy who did Joseph's voice was also on in the live action Garfields.
Oh God. Nah, nah.
No, thank
Along with
you.
Bill Murphy. We're
No,
not
Bill-
supposed to
No,
remember.
No.
thank you.
Bill Murray.
Bill Murray, sorry. Why was I thinking Bill Murphy? Oh, because I was also thinking Brittany Murphy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Murray.
Get your butt down.
Not getting out.
My sanity.
Well, it looks like Peach won against Bowser, so
So I did a AI generated picture of Uncle Bobo. I'm about to put it in the Cat Island.
Oh.
no,
Oh
no.
God.
AI generated pictures are. Oh God.
That's scary. Oh, hold on a second.
They're so unsettling.
That's like Bobo on Halloween night right there. About to go. He's about to put Michael to shame. It's like Michael, you have Michael, you have not seen hell the way
God,
I
I'm
have.
too afraid.
Is that what is he holding? Is that
I
a
don't-
gun?
No, that's what the AI drew.
God damn it.
I think that's a fish.
I'm trying to stay neutral to this, but I'm kind of confused to see how. I feel tempted to try to use an AI art generator
Here, I'll
art
send
thing
you one.
of one of my works.
I'll send you one.
Okay, I'm kind
You
of scared.
have to. It have some of them aren't as bad. It's some of them you have to watch out for. There's one that it's called Different Dimension Me that currently you can't use it right now because it's is it still yep it, can't use
Stealing
it right now.
people's art. And...
Oh no, not that one.
Here you go, Mooney. This is the one I used.
Okay,
nice.
I'll check it out later.
Because I guess Tencent, the scum of the earth who are behind it, found out that people were using this to put memes through, and so they decided to shut it down from anyone who wasn't in China. I'm pretty sure the only reason why they made that AI thing like for pictures is to get people to willingly submit their photographs.
Mm-hmm.
Like how there was an AI generator thing that was like, oh, what would you look like in Juggalo makeup? Because little hint here, Juggalo makeup was one of the few things that could beat facial recognition software.
We don't need any more insane.
I'm a little afraid of it because Twitter was creating. Because I saw like Twitter and I saw the whole thing was making a bit of a shit show because like saying like the AI kind of gives away the authenticity of the artwork.
Another creation of Bobo.
Oh God, that looks like something out of Knights.
I like it.
I mean, I like Knights. Knights is a very
No, I like this
Vegas-y
artwork.
casino. It's very casino-esque, like very Vegas.
There's another one I did. It did for me.
You're the one I used to. Wow.
Yeah, that is definitely Vegas.
Yeah, because I used this
Would that be
main one. Because I
part of
actually like.
Uncle Bobo's lore that he had a circus, had the circus in Vegas or something?
Well, no.
Here's a robot I did.
The circus is basically
God.
is basically a casino in Vegas.
Oh,
Yeah,
put this in
like-
art too. Did you see the stuff I got on there that I put in art?
Oh, recently?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw.
Here's another one of a robot.
What is that? That is like a sex robot ready to be in
I know.
ready to be in DDR.
That's the thing. I did not fucking put in sex robot. I just simply put robot in it.
Well, you gotta
Like,
remember,
yeah.
when people put in robot nowadays, they're thinking of sex robots.
Yeah, but you have a
I'm
normal
thinking of the
robot
one
that's actually.
that moves butter,
Mhm.
not like
At least
literal
it's not-
stick of butter.
At least it's not like they're making it look like blow up dolls.
This one's kind of creepy. I did also.
What did you put in the search for that?
I just did the same thing with that, but I just put girl in it. I'll get a couple more. I did.
I think you had way too much fun with this.
Well, the thing is, I was bored during the
Apparently
show,
so.
so I'm like, okay,
That's how it starts.
yeah. So
Yep.
here's
Let
some
fun
more.
with it.
It all starts with I'm bored, and then all of a sudden this happens.
Yeah.
It's creepy how that one looks realistic to me.
Yeah, Elliot, move.
Yeah, this is what Circus does when she's bored. Play with AI.
And
Oh,
none
we
of
need
the,
to figure,
and while
out the
I'm playing
quirks
a-
of Pix
and
AI.
I'm
That one's pretty
playing
good.
And while I'm playing games like Fantasy Star Online 2, New Genesis.
Elliot,
Well,
They-
water
I
you.
just boys to play
and
with
I will
what am
water
I-
you.
the
Get
game's
off the desk.
it's getting its third anniversary up. It'll start tomorrow night, though. Where we get
So
the
basi-
main event going.
So Joey, that's basically what the Circus tent looks like—a big giant, like, cyberpunk neon casino.
all right. Well now,
That's how I grew up.
Okay.
well now we know where we're going after the laundromat closes.
Yeah, my place. We're gonna get drunk.
No. I'm not getting drunk.
Well, somebody is. Certainly Hill Bobo.
Oh yeah, Bobo will be drunk every night, right?
Hey,
But
he's your
isn't he
typical. He's a ghost right now.
Yeah, this is like Hogwarts, where all the ghosts are alive and they're all getting drunk.
Yeah, and yet that son of a bitch still makes me celebrate the Day of the Dead.
With his supply of tequila and tequila accessories.
He wants tequila, he wants pizza, he wants a hooker, and nudie magazines. If I don't provide all that, let's just say he haunts me for years on end.
What
Hey,
about the
did you get a
Chippendales?
popular mechanics?
Mrs. Hill, what did you tell him?
What? One year I told him he was
Oh.
out of tough
Okay, this
luck.
one.
Kept coming back until I gave it to him. Luckily, there's a supply of hookers in our fucking tents.
Elliot, stop.
Alright,
My
now's a
lord
good.
goes deep.
All right, now's the time to end the show before it starts getting weird.
It's already gotten weird.
No, two more weirder than it is now.
Oh, and we have a chicken
Like-
market for us. Come on, how weird can we get?
Very.
Next time I'll just bring
He's gonna
Bobo
get
with
even more insane.
All right.
It's gonna get even more weird by next week. Jeez, you guys are gonna make this even weirder for me before it hits the 18th. Come on.
Yeah. Once next Friday rolls around, we'll have topics up the wazoo to talk about. And it's
I
a
guess I'll
free,
be posting. Well,
and
go
it's
ahead.
a free for all, so you can talk about whatever you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, bring your own topics, and I'll bring mine. We'll have fun with
I'll
it.
bring the Chippendales.
Yeah, of course you will.
Of course.
I'm tired of them stinking up my damn house. They won't clean after themselves. They're your problem now, Mooney.
Girl.
All right, I'm gonna close the laundromat before any more shenanigans happens. All right. Yeah. So next time around, we'll give the omnibus a break, and we'll do a little bit of holiday shenanigans.
Yeah.
That means it's a free for all. That means we talk about whatever the fuck we want. So that's it next time around. So until then, you ain't gotta go home, but you're not staying here because we're done. Everyone's off to the casino.
Yeah, get the fuck out. We don't have any drugs.
And then go to Circus's casino where everybody's drunk and nobody knows how to run a fucking slot machine. Until then, farewell, everyone. Bye bye.